What is the worst financial decision you've ever made? I took out student loans for a profession I don't even work in now. Don't blame yourself. 73% of people end up not working in their field of study. For most companies, a diploma is just proof that you can tolerate various kinds of nonsense and follow instructions. Not divorcing my ex immediately when I found out she cheated on me. I used a debit card for years instead of a credit card. I know tons of people who just lose money by constantly using a debit card instead of getting cash back and bonuses with a credit card. I've just been quite irresponsible with money my whole life. There wasn't one big mistake, just a bunch of small impulsive purchases that ultimately led to hardly any savings. I'm trying to fix that now, and there's already progress. And I became a loan guarantor. If you're thinking about becoming a loan guarantor, you need to understand what that actually means. If the borrower stops paying, the entire debt falls entirely on you. The bank will absolutely come after you for the money, and it will ruin your credit history. At the same time, you will have no rights to whatever was bought with that money. Furthermore, if someone can't get a loan without a guarantor, it means the bank, which has enormous resources and analytics, decided it was too risky, and they're most likely right. Seriously, almost every week posts show up on Personal Finance. Help, I became a loan guarantor. You stop paying and I can't handle it. What do I do? And the answer is always the same. Well, you can go get some lubricant because you're about to get screwed. If you're not prepared to be fully responsible for someone else's loan without getting anything at all in return, don't agree. The worst decision of my life, ignoring debts and hoping everything would just work itself out. First, there was a credit card and another one. Then payday loans to cover the previous payments. At some point, the debt exceeded $500,000. Banks started calling every day, and they refused to restructure my debt. Unfortunately, I had to withdraw my pension savings twice to avoid ending up homeless. Judging by the number of responses, the economic situation is even worse than I thought. I bought a sailboat. That says it all. One colleague who's into sailing said you can get the same experience by kneeling in a cold shower, crying, and tearing up $100 bills. Although he still didn't part with his boat for a couple more years. Bought a poster of Mark Zuckerberg. I was drunk. Invested in crypto. I know a guy who got in very early, right at the very beginning. Now he has a $6.50 million house. He's getting married and essentially bought out the entire wedding venue outright. He's 32. Some crypto really paid off, but I think those times are gone. If you learn about a super profitable investment from the news or from someone who doesn't really understand it themselves, then you're already too late. I could have bought Bitcoin right at the start, but back then I just didn't believe it could do all the things the fans were saying, so I just didn't invest. Yeah, and honestly, even now I don't see much point in it. But even if I had bought it, knowing myself, I would have bought it 10 and sold it 20 to 30. I'm not the type to hold out for huge sums, so I don't really regret it. I wouldn't have gotten rich off it anyway. I quit my job to go traveling in December 2019. That's not even really a decision, unless you count the fact that I married my ex. She threw away a hard drive that contained 2,000 Bitcoins. They were worth pennies back then. I started dating my girlfriend. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. Amazing in every way, except financially. Her finances are a complete mess. She takes out every store credit card she can. She has about 12 subscriptions: skincare, food, socks, everything. She even had an expensive subscription to a psychic. I have to help her with rent, bills, and everything else. There are people you simply cannot trust with money. I didn't pursue child support from my ex-husband, even though the court ordered it. It was a significant amount of money, and it was very hard without it. But I just couldn't spend another second of my life on him, so I let it go. From a financial standpoint, it was a terrible decision. From an emotional standpoint, it was the best. Plus, it forced me to grow and move forward in my career. But several years were very difficult, and my financial situation never fully recovered. At first, I wanted to say going to university, but thinking about it, that's not it. The worst is all the stupid decisions I made during my studies instead of actually studying. Not buying Bitcoin when I first heard about it, when it was worth nothing. But that's hindsight. I was a poor student back then, and investing in some obscure internet currency would have been pretty foolish. Same story. I had a friend in college, a bit weird to be honest, who told me about Bitcoin very early, around 2010, when it cost 9 cents per coin. He constantly said we should buy at least a little, that one day this thing would take off. He's the kind of guy who loves risk and always talks about the next big thing. So I thought it was just another one of his adventures. Like you, I was a poor student and didn't want to risk my last bit of money on something completely new and untested. He, on the other hand, built an entire mining rig right in the dorm. I'm 33 now, working 9 to 5 and busting my ass. And he's almost retired. He lives sometimes in Germany, sometimes in Florida with his wife, working on hobby radio projects. If I had invested just $100 back then, it could have turned into roughly $72 million today. Bought horses and then sold them at a loss. Same story, buying horses, Now I have a second and third. It was probably my worst financial decision. Over 12 years, I've spent enough on them to make a good down payment on a house or retire a couple of years earlier. But emotionally, it's one of the best decisions. I just can't imagine my life without them. At 21, I hesitated for a long time to get a $6,500 surgery. I was in the military, and although I had the money, spending almost half my savings was very hard. I ended up getting it done a few years later for $8,000. I overpaid and lost several years of my life dealing with a problem that reduced my quality of life. And that's time I'll never get back. Got married. My wife wanted a specific kind of wedding and absolutely wasn't going to wait until we could afford it. Now we're getting divorced and I'm left with a wedding debt of about $16,000 at a damn 17% annual interest. The funny thing is, one of the main reasons she left was that I didn't want children because I didn't want to go tens of thousands of dollars further into debt for it. The only upside is that I'm finding it easier to get through this because I'm more angry than heartbroken. I'll probably be angry until I pay off the loan. On the plus side, it gives me a good argument for keeping the house. Married someone with serious problems that I knew about in advance. It was clear from the start it would end in divorce. Helping people was a good quality, but in a relationship, partners should support and energize each other. I thought if I constantly supported her, she'd see I wasn't like those who'd hurt her before and would start to appreciate it. But what she really needed was a friend in therapy, not a husband. Narrator's voice, Morgan Freeman. But after the wedding and the birth of the child, she still didn't start appreciating their relationship. This isn't the most expensive mistake, but I bought VIU right after its release. I just love regular V and played it a lot during my school years, but it turned out VIU is complete garbage. Oh. For most of my adult life, I abused alcohol and substances. Now I've been sober for 11 years. Yeah, I get it. Today I stood at an ATM and got annoyed over a $4 fee. Then I remembered how I used to withdraw money 2 or 3 times a week to buy Coke. I've been clean for almost 2 years now. Congratulations on your 11 years. Cast out my pension account to cover expenses after getting laid off. That was 20 years ago, and that money would be worth many times more today. Fortunately, my new job has an even better pension plan. Plus, I received an inheritance. So financially, things are fine. Co-signed an auto loan for a worthless ex and also lent money to another loser like him. If you're in a relationship, someone else's financial problems shouldn't become yours. Didn't insist on having my name on the house deed. We bought it together, but only put it in his name because my credit history was bad at the time. He swore that if we broke up, we'd sell the house and split the money. In the end, when we split, he just kicked me out, sold the house to his mother, and built her a huge addition. Definitely marriage. Divorce costs an insane amount of money. Although on the other hand, I'm glad I left before she started using a child to pressure me into saving the relationship. In second place, motorcycles. A huge amount of fun, but as an investment, a complete failure. And I'm still not giving them up. Bought an old pickup truck for $1,600, put $25,000 into it, sold it for the same $1,600. Edit, didn't expect my comment to get such a big response. For my 18th birthday, I bought a 1995 GMC Sierra Classic 1500 from a farmer for $1,600 with about 200,000 kilometers on it. Engine was a 305 South BC. The transmission had already been rebuilt twice. It was my first car, and I absolutely loved it. I lived with my parents and decided to fully restore it. I like 80s cars, and I thought if I did it right, it would last a long time. I found a decent shop, and first they fixed an exhaust leak, put on a dual 2.5-inch exhaust with an H-pipe and 2 Flowmaster Super 44 mufflers. That cost me $500. Then suspension, ELE Brock IS shocks, staying spring repair, etc. about $1,500. Then I got a promotion, had more money, and started spending freely. Classic story for a guy who just turned 20. Lol. Replaced the carpet, reupholstered the seats, installed an Alpine stereo and speakers, another $2,000 or so. Next, the wiring, new lighting harness, glass headlights instead of plastic, brighter bulbs, thankfully sealed connectors, another $500 or so. Then came the serious investments. A fully custom aluminum engine, rebuilt the transmission, installed a new rear axle, Eaton locker, upgraded brakes, drive shaft, cooling system, ignition, starter, long 2 headers, transmission cooler, and so on. The engine came out to around $10,000, the transmission $4,000, and the rear end another $15, $20,000. In the end, at 20 years old, I had a pickup truck weighing about 2 tons with over 400 horsepower, running a quarter mile in about 13 seconds. It was very loud, sounded juicy, and I loved it. Never went to the track, but the GPS showed over 200 kilometers per hour on the highway. By this point, I had spent about $20,500. Then I drove another 150,000 kilometers and started having problems with the fuel system, putting in another $500. A couple of sets of tires cost about $2,000, plus about $1,000 on various small things like bed liner, power windows, etc. Total came out to about $24,000. And then it all died. The transmission just disintegrated on the highway. The torque converter blades broke off, clogged the lines, pressure spiked, and it all went to hell. I sold the truck to my mechanic for $1,600 and used money from a recent inheritance to buy a used Mazda instead of pouring more money into the pickup. That's the story of my worst financial decision. But I learned a lot about car repair, not to mention all the tools I bought. And the best part, I painted the body with a $70 can of Rust-Oleum from Home Depot. Thank you very much for watching. In the comments below the video, write what the worst financial decision you've ever made was. And don't forget to check out our other videos. Hugs. See you tomorrow. Bye.